You had Green Mountain, you had Fender Mountain. Fender Mountain went away when they developed that, or said they were going to. Everybody had towers there, had to pull their towers down. Equipment had to be relocated. That equipment moved from Fender to what we know as Catherine's Knob, aka Dalton Mountain. Everybody's probably familiar with that. It's the only two sites you had in the county. So you either talked on Green or you talked on Catherine's. You could not talk on both. You had to choose one or the other. You manually changed channels with your radios, and you selected what you were on. There was no talk with radios across the county. It just simply wasn't there. The system didn't do it. You couldn't be on one end of the county and talk to the other. It was not simulcasted then. You had independent repeaters. You had one for fire, 3 repeaters at Green, 3 at Catherine's Knob. Okay? When the FCC came out with their mandate in 2013 to be compliant by 2013, you had to lower your voice modulation in half. So now I'm talking very quietly. So you get the picture. My modulation is key for you to hear me. In cutting your modulation in half, it created more spectrum for other users in the field as more and more agencies wanted frequencies, businesses wanted frequencies. They needed to suppress the voice in order to open up more bandwidth for everyone. In doing so, that comes with recourse. It lowers your modulation. Just like many of you had cell phones in the analog days, you would tell somebody on phone, I'm going into the hole down here, I may lose you. They'd hear all the popping and cracking and static, and your voice would kind of dissipate, and they'd hear some syllables, and as you come out the other side, you were still connected. Digital does not work that way. Digital just simply carries you to the end, and when you fall out, it cuts you off. We are still analog with the system you have today as you were prior to 2013. It's still analog. So the popping and the cracking and the static and anything that it's acceptable to is there. When you lower that voice, it's hard to overcome unless you have your signal on, spot on, tuned on frequency, because the receivers are not as forgiving. It has to be spot on. As that comes across, it's about clarity, being close to the mic, not eating the mic, not down in the floorboard, not in your lap, not with the microphone on your ear and your head over here. You have to be precise talking to the radio to get as much modulation because of the suppression that the FCC gave you. Okay? That's what we're dealing with. So as that come up, Alleghany County never experienced a single site repeater on narrowband. They always had the wideband 25 kc modulation until you went from having 2 sites to a 5-site simulcast system, all linked together, all transmitters firing at one time, narrowband. Now, what did that accomplish? It accomplished countywide communications. Paging out, when they set a pager tone off for one department, it could be heard out all those 5 sites at the same time. Same way with the receivers. The receivers are all going to hear at the same time. That's the way that worked. But that modulation that everybody refers to as, hey, before 2013, we could hear everybody much stronger. Yes, everyone in the country suffers from this. That's why a lot of customers have went digital. Going digital ain't going to help you because you have to have your pagers. Pagers are still analog, and they're going to be. They haven't come out with anything digital. So there's ways to compromise to enhance the system you have. There's ways to overcome that. But the system you have is built out for mobile coverage throughout the county. As you start using portables, there's limitations. A handheld radio is 5 watts, nothing more. A truck radio, 40 to 50 watts. That's quadruple the power of a portable. I don't know of anywhere that you can't take a mobile within the county in respected areas and not get out. If you know of some places, let me know. But what we've seen in the drive tests we've done around the county, you've got 97% mobile coverage. So to bring you up to speed as to where the system is now, you've got 5 sites out there. I think we've added the 6th, which is Roaring Gap. So your sites are Lake Street, which is right here in town, which the reason for that site is EMS could not get their pagers to go off inside their building or talk out with a portable radio inside the EMS building. They can now. Much around town, they couldn't talk on the radios or get pages inside the building. So Lake Street was put up. Green Mountain is still there. You've got Mulberry Gap, also known as Little Grandfather, that serves the Laurel Springs area. You've got Buck Mountain, which is actually in Virginia, that looks at the Piney Creek area. We've got Roaring Gap, that's out at the Cherry Lane area as well as the edge of the mountain there. That backfills over towards the Glade Valley, Glade Creek area. What am I missing here? Phoenix Mountain, that's in Ashe County. That helps over at the, what's your intersection that comes in between 18 and 221? 113. So a lot of your corridor there, 113 area. It'll also get out 88 going out towards Jefferson area. I'm missing one other site. Rich Hill. Rich Hill, you've got that. I think Rich Hill overshoots a lot of the area that's right below it because it's looking out, and that's where your Roaring Gap comes in to fill in. So how many sites is that? 6? 6 sites. So that's where we're at now.
Now, when you say sites, is that towers or?
Yes, sir.
6?
So 6 tower sites. Now, and Bobby, you bring a good question there. At this 6 sites, as I told you, the system started out, you have fire, sheriff, and EMS. So 6 sites, most of them having 3 repeaters each, fire, sheriff, EMS. So when you key the mic, and let's say it registers you on Roaring Gap, the receiver at Roaring Gap opens up, then all the transmitters at all the other 5 sites open up. And that conversation goes out accordingly.
Thank you.
I think it's important to identify whose towers, whose equipment, whose frequencies, give everybody the
Sure.
full detail.
So in 2012, when we looked at this, Sheriff Maines was driving this and said, look, we want a simulcast system. We've had independent people come in and conducted surveys. We know that simulcast is what we need. And Mike sat down and worked with Sheriff Maines there and really tried to develop what it is, what they could do. And we come back with the solution was simulcast. That would solve problems for all 3 agencies. So we identified the sites that we had with towers already there. We house the equipment. We provide the antennas, the microwave, the cabling, the structure there, and the vertical real estate for all this to live on. The only equipment Alleghany owns at these sites is the repeaters themselves and the simulcast controllers. To make this happen in 2012, it was with a limited budget, a definite need of what the county needed, and we put it all together and said, okay, we can house it all. We can let it ride on our microwave and on our antennas. You buy the simulcast equipment. As we went into this, now the only frequencies Alleghany had was for Downton and for Green. There was no other frequencies that could be used at all the others. When you're trying to simulcast and you're trying to have frequencies at every sites, you've got to do some juggling. not to mention all your other neighbors in other counties that you're interfering with, or they're going to interfere with you. So it was a very stressful deal to pull together and work out frequencies everywhere and keep it clean with no interference. So we have frequencies that we provide that are used throughout y'all's system, and that's what we ride on. Those are very clean frequencies. I've not heard anybody complaining, hey, we're hearing these people coming over top of us like we used to. So that's not going on. We have clean frequencies. But that's the ownership. Now, as far as 911 center, the county owns every bit of that equipment in the comm center. They own the tower there at dispatch, and they own everything hooked to it. Miss anything?
And I'm just observing. I don't know if you've got something you want to put on the screen or not. But
Mike, what have you've got the PowerPoint of kind of the voice, what narrowband done, right?
Yes.
So if you want kind of a picture shot to bring what your voice modulation does, and I'm sure several of us has had a CB radio or messed with a CB. We all know that there's two things in CB lingo they talk about is somebody pegging their meter, which is just raw power, throwing your needle over as far as it can. But no matter how much you swing that meter, if you can't hear their voice, it ain't getting there. The modulation is what's key. So Mike, let's put this up on the PowerPoint.
and out of respect for everyone, someone's going to have to walk everyone through this.
Sure. Mike, is there one that's got the cliff dive of the signal?
Yes.
Okay, here's what I'm looking for. The strong audio signal right there that you see the arrow going up, that's a 25 kc frequency right there in the middle. Loud and strong, okay? As you start to go in a degraded area or go down into a valley or somewhere that signal is weak, you see how it slopes off dramatically. And it gets down to the weak point down there. And the weak point, there's a point in there that is totally unreadable, and it does go out. As you see with the digital line, with the blue there, the digital takes you at that strong signal all the way across and then just drops off, cliff dive. That's where, you're going out 18, you're heading towards Galax, and your phone just drops you. You're gone. You run out of the tower. Sorry, you ain't calling them back till you get some signal. And as you all know on your phone, sometimes one bar can make a phone call, and other times it can only send a text. That's because of that weak area you're in. So digital voice quality is just like us sitting here talking. It's fully quiet, fully legible. You're not in digital. You're in that analog. So I'll give you an analogy of this. Most all of us sitting here in this room knows what static is. We know what squelch is, that type noise. Pike Electric is not far down the road. Pike is recruiting a lot of individuals that straight out of school comes to work for them. Pike still runs a low band radio, 43 point something meg, big fishing pole antennas like the Highway Patrol used to run. They have no repeaters. It is radio to radio as far as it can reach. They may get 60 miles out of that. It just depends what the weather conditions are. They have their own radio shop in-house. They started getting complaints of multiple crews, multiple radios. This doesn't work. Our radios don't work. Radio shop checks it out. service monitor, the machine, the computer, the brain that says this radio is right, finds nothing wrong with it. Several people, it's older technicians there, they're like, there's nothing wrong with this. So they go to the crews and they said, you're going to have to tell us why this doesn't work, because their terminology is, it doesn't work. They go out in the field with them, and as they're talking, someone's voice is popping and cracking, and you hear some white noise in there, the shh, kind of in the background. Still hear their voice legible. One boy jumps up and says, see, it don't work. What do you mean it doesn't work? That's not clear like my phone. You finally mentioned one word we all understood, clear. Now their term was it doesn't work. Clear simply turned into, hold on a minute. We have a generation that doesn't understand static. They never had 8-track. They never had 45s. They never had cassettes. They never had CDs. They didn't have analog to digital phones. They come up in a digital era. That's all they knew. So they had to say, now we got to have a radio class and we've got to teach them, this is your squelch knob. They still use that at Pike. This is your squelch knob. If you start to not be able to hear somebody, you can open up the squelch and hear them a little. Allegheny's far beyond that. But I give you this story to tell you a lot of us that are older take for granted what we know and what we've seen, and we have a younger generation coming in. There's nothing wrong with that. They just haven't been exposed to what we've had or what we see in the terminology we know. So does your radio system have static on it? Yes. It's an analog system. It always will. Anything analog is going to have static if you move into those static areas. White noise, is it going to be there? Yes. The white noise comes into play when you have the noise floor. Noise floor is where you have all things making racket. Computers, LED lights, anything that can raise that noise floor, your voice has to overcome that.
Doing this.
Everything that emits a signal creates noise. You can bring in a service monitor, turn the picket fence on, and see everything light up and where it's at on frequency. That's the RF world we live in. Anybody remember when we started having mobile terminals in our cars, the computers, and Verizon had an air card, and we slapped it in there and we stuck it in the vehicle and we thought, we got internet, we can travel down the road. Verizon had a problem with the air cards. If you powered that air card on and you had a VHF radio in your car, 30 dB of overload is what it would put on your receiver. For translating 30 dB, I may as well have flooded your radio with water because you're not going to hear anything just by that computer being on. I can't tell you how many people come into the shop with their radios not working, and I'm like, once we figured this out, you got a laptop? Yeah. Is it on? Yeah. Turn it off. That ain't got nothing to do with it. Don't argue with me. Just do it. Turn it off. Do a radio check. Crystal clear. Turn your computer on. Try that. There is I'll give you that point because there's things that will interfere. That's been rectified. Manufacturer fixed the issues. We've moved on. I give you these analogies to tell you what can affect your system. Not only that, but the weather, things of that nature. Is there things that can enhance your system? Sure. There's always room for improvement. That gets down to how much do you want to put into it? And before we even look at that, but tell me what areas are affected. Those type things. Mike, move up to the digital slide there. I'll show you something here with.
If I may, Mr. Chair, before you move on, I think it would help. What you have got to realize whenever you are talking about 30 dB gain, every 3 dB doubles your power. So if you start out with 10 watts and you have a antenna that gives you 6 dB of gain, now you have 20 times a double again that system is going to act as if it was 40 watts. Whenever you were talking about 30 watts in close proximity to a radio, it's a wonder it doesn't burn the receiver out.
You're right, John.
Whenever you hear Michael and I primarily, we'll start talking about 30 dB gain antenna. All that's doing is it is basically magnifying the amount of power that is being radiated into the atmosphere. The other thing that you've also got to realize is that gain is reciprocal. Not only does it magnify the outgoing signal, it magnifies the incoming signal to that gain. I just want to clarify that. So whenever you hear 3 dB, remember dBs, decibels, it is a system where you measure power, and every time you see 3, you're doubling.
Correct. The slide we've got pulled up here is to kind of give you a comparison. When you see the 12.5 kilohertz, the KHZ, that stands for kilohertz. The 12.5 is your modulation now. Kenwood has technology to divide that yet again into 6 1/4. That is very ultra narrow band. Can you divide 6 1/4 again? No. They have not made equipment that's capable of doing that. The voice can't be detected in that. So unless Elon Musk or somebody gets smart enough to figure that out, we ain't going to divide it again. You see the protocol NXDN. No other manufacturer can operate at 6.25 except for Kenwood's protocol. What others are doing with the 12.5, if you go digital, they're just dividing that in half and using that modulation. So as you see the 12.5 kilohertz, and you may see that in some of the digital protocol that you read in some print on some radios, that's where you're at. You'll never see 25 kilohertz again. It's gone. That's pre-2013. Any questions?
FDMA, frequency division, multiple access.
Yes, sir. FDMA.
Okay, thank you.
Clear as mud, clear as the water right now.
So what percentage did you say we had right now on the walkie-talkies in the county?
On the walkie-talkies, I can't give you a percentage. On a vehicle-mounted radio, 97%.
97%.
Do you want to touch on this?
Yes.
And I've got about 10 copies that I can shuffle each way.
I got some too.
Yeah, probably do if you don't care. Six copies. One. And you want, so we made about 5 anyway. Yeah.
All right, so we passed out the copies here. This is a FCC document. Dave, I'm on Glen.
You go
Just September the 24th, 2018. This was sent to all communication shops or anyone that held an FCC technician license. An FCC technician license is also known as GROL, General Radio Telephone Operator's Permit. If you want to be in jeopardy of losing that or be in trouble with the FCC as far as a two-way shop, this is a document to read and go by and look at. But what they're making you aware of here is Part 90 rules and regulations of the FCC, as well as devices that are coming into the country, devices that do not have an FCC type acceptance. What has an FCC type acceptance? Anything electronic, period. Cordless phone, VCR, your cell phone, your two-way radio, they're all going to have a type acceptance. What does type acceptance do? It means a manufacturer has submitted their piece of electronic equipment to undergo testing to adhere to standards and guidelines of standard operating procedures within the U.S. That's bound by the FCC rules. If the FCC rules say this piece of equipment has to operate in these parameters, that's what every manufacturer has to make their specific device adhere to. So with radios, we're under those same guidelines. So something that comes across the pond that's cheap, you better see if it's got an FCC sticker in there and if it meets the criteria here. If it doesn't, there's a reason it's cheap, because to pay for FCC type acceptance, it separates the men from the boys. You have to pay to play. So if they're bypassing that and circumventing the cost, people are getting those, programming it themselves, putting it on the frequency. I got it. It'll key up. Watch this. I can talk. Yeah. Where's your filter for your receiver in there? There ain't one. Where's your filter for your transmitter? There's not one. Remember, it only costs $35 versus anything that's $400 and up in the commercial world, and in the public safety world, it's higher than that. You can now go online and get stuff that looks like a Viper radio across the pond. I promise you won't get it activated on the Viper system in North Carolina because they ain't going to allow it. But if it was human intervention that you could program it yourself, people would be putting them on there left and right. I say that because these radios here, they're showing up everywhere. I've seen them in every public safety sector that we deal with. They're out there. You can say, well, they work. I see it. You don't see it on the side I do with the spectrum analyzer and the service monitor, seeing it splatter in the band when you key up. You're not staying within your guidelines of where it's supposed to be, and it's receivers splattering everywhere. And then you get the complaints that my radio's not working, or I can't hear, can't do this. Just in this issue we're in right now with the hurricane damage, one of my employees went up to work Avery County with the EOC. They had radios coming in from the state. They had radios coming in from local agencies there to give out. A cache of Baofeng radios showed up to distribute from a local agency. This document was pulled out and said, you pick the box up. I will not touch it. I will not be fined by the FCC, and I will not lose my license. Get those out of here. So yes, they're out there. Yes, people will tell you they work. No, they do not work effectively within the guidelines. There's a lot of stuff you can make work, but it working properly and being public safety mission critical is a big difference. So I wanted everybody to have a copy of this. I can promise you and tell you, my salespeople, my technicians, and everybody will tell you, if it comes into my office and it's in their hand, I will not touch it. I don't care if they got $1,000 around it. They're leaving with it. Yes,
One
sir.
thing that you've left out, if you will look on page 3, possession of that radio and pushing the push to talk button That is $19,639 a fine a day, and you will not get it reduced.
And today in our government, they will like to get a hold of that money.
And this doesn't cover the subject we're on right now, but profanity is $10,000 a word.
Let me ask just this. I've always got questions.
No, go right ahead, Bob.
Are all of our devices made in the United States or some?
No, I don't know of anything that is manufactured two-way radio wise in the United States. You might get some that claim the word assembly. Your radios are going to come from Malaysia, China, Japan, Mexico, somewhere like that. There'll be North American distribution and there'll be North American assembly. You can pick whatever brand you want to. There is no manufacturing of that radio in the United States anymore. When Texas Instruments went away, all the chip malfunctions and all's exported.
Thank you.
John?
Question. Would you explain how mobile repeaters operate, please?
Yes. John brings up an item there that is used dramatically from all your neighboring counties and in the mountains, predominantly in every agency. He used the term mobile repeater. A mobile repeater is basically this. Your mobile radio in your truck or in your patrol car or in your ambulance is 50 watts. Do they make one bigger than that? Yes, they make 100-watt ones. But primarily off-the-shelf radios are 50 watts. When you take a mobile repeater and you piggyback that, which is a cable coming off the rear and hooked into your mobile repeater basically enhances your everyday portable radio being 5 watts, it turns it into 50. You are operating your portable to that vehicle on scene. It's keying up at 50 watts going out to the system, to dispatch, your other agencies there, your corresponding units. It's transmitting to all them. As the call comes back to the truck, that is then keyed up on the mobile repeater out to the portable. Your agencies that are using these, they'll have one on their first out truck or in pretty much every patrol car that they have in their fleet. Grayson County's got them, Carroll County's got them, Ashe, Avery, Surrey, even Winston-Salem, Forsyth Fire, all those agencies have them down there, and they're 800 meg, because a mobile repeater not only helps you in your rural areas, it helps you inside houses. It helps you inside buildings. So what we're running into is when you go into a structure such as this, you're in subterranean here, probably got a metal roof. I don't know, do we? No metal on this? We do. We got a metal roof on this building. We got
Metal deck, yeah.
got concrete walls. So we're trying to talk out of a jar. If our two-way radio's in here and we put a jar over it, we're trying to talk out. If you've got a vehicle repeater that's right out here in your vehicle, you're just talking to it, and then it's keying up going out. So you could imagine your vehicle's parked there with a stationary antenna on it. It's not moving. It's got great reception. It's got great transmit back to where you're going. So your portable is essentially the arm of your vehicle that's 50 watts. You're going to hear everything it's saying, and everything you're saying it's going to hear. But that's only if your equipment is right. Your equipment gets age on it. If it drifts off frequency, remember, a repeater is whatever you put into it's what's coming out. So if it's garbage in, it's garbage out. If it's quality in, it's quality out. So vehicle repeaters, yeah, everybody ought to have one, every agency. Because as you just start going into people's homes or you start going into different buildings or terrain, you go off down a cliff, you're going after a car that's down an embankment, your truck's up there. I mean, you're portable, you're already down the hole. You can't even see the tower site, much less talk to it if you're down in the hole. But you can talk to that vehicle.
You left out one thing. You look at all the outlets around here, your electrical system is grounded. When you transmit, it's looking for ground. So we look at these as electrical outlets and wiring inside of a building, but to that radio, that is an antenna that will bleed off the power that is going out. You only got 6 watts. And then you got to go through the structure.
5 watts.
Yeah.
5 watts, that's all we got.
Oh, excuse me, 5. Low band was 6.
Yes.
Low
Yes.
band was 6.
Low band was 6.
Now, on mobile repeaters, does it require another license, or are you using the talk around frequency?
You need one license countywide. It's a simplex frequency. So you need 10 meg of separation. You operate in the 150 realm. You need to be up in the 171 for your transmit on that mobile repeater. Why is that critical? Because in your vehicle with the mobile repeater, we've got to have separation so those frequencies don't collide and cause your own problems. Vehicle antenna placement, if you've got an engine with a top roof mounted antenna, we'll probably put the mobile repeater antenna on the front fender to keep it away from the other one. We have the frequency separation of 10 meg. We want separation from the 2 antennas. That way we can ensure that it works right. There are some filtering. You have a notch filter and you have a pass cavity. Those 2 items right there, in layman's terms, is filters that keep the receive frequency out of the transmitter and keep the transmit frequency centered up where it's supposed to go so it doesn't splatter and affect other mobile repeaters or other frequencies that are adjacent to them. Because remember, when we started this, I told you about your modulation. They cut you in half. Why did they do that? So they could put other people on both sides of you. So that's why I keep stressing about your equipment, making sure it's up to date, that you're transmitting right in your lane. Because if you get on either side, you're not centered up. It doesn't sound good. You're not going to hear good. Equipment is equipment. It's electronic. It can fail. It can drift off frequency. Same way when you had crystal controlled radios, had to be tuned. New radios, even the Viper radios, we have a service monitor you put them on. It auto tunes them to factory specs. Okay, they have to be tuned. Everything has wear and tear. So that is something that every agency needs to take it upon themselves and do that. I know that David done that at EMS here over a year ago when we done that. We found a few things, and he had us to do preventive maintenance on it. We found it. We fixed it. Some items he didn't even see that it was affecting him, but as we showed him the corrosion and what was happening with his antennas, out on the hood, he knew, hey, if we hadn't caught it now, this was fixing to fail. Found a few things off frequency, lined those up. Game on. He's been cooking right along.
So what do we need to do we have mobile repeaters now?
None that I'm aware of.
Would that fix the problem? Because I hear, like Morgan tells me that, when they talk to Ashe County, it's just crystal clear. I mean, how do we get our system to be like theirs? To sound that good?
To sound that good. When you say sound that good, I got to have a baseline to compare it to.
Okay, tell him what a baseline is, Morgan.
I don't really know how to explain that.
Like there's not any interference?
No, yeah, that's no interference, no static, nothing like that.
It's like talking in here.
Yeah, just like talking like this.
Okay. So when you take your base radio or a truck radio and you talk in your county, what does it sound like?
It's different every day. Some days it's clear, some days it's, I don't know how to explain the noises. Like,
Sound like a Chinook landing in the
yeah,
background.
sounds like a helicopter, yeah, most of the time.
Is that when dispatch is talking to you?
Yes, whenever they're talking about us.
How does it sound with your other truck field units talking to you?
It's a little bit better. It's just mainly on the dispatch. Is the problem.
It's coming from dispatch only.
Yeah, like talking to each other, it's not that bad, but dispatch side is pretty rough.
Either they can't hear us or we can't hear them.
Yeah.
So is it their voice that's not making it to you? Is it the tones?
It's their voice. The tones, sometimes that's an issue, but
Well, I mean, for example, we just had a motor vehicle accident, my pager never activated.
yeah.
Hey, can we get you guys to talk into the mic?
Great example is we just had a motor vehicle accident and my pager never activated.
Okay. Miniature.
6.
Okay. So no activation on the pager. We're in town, so that's coming off Lake Street. Anybody else's pager not activated?
I don't know, it sounds like you can hear Cherry Lane pretty good, though.
Can right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mainly just on the dispatch side for us.
Mike, you got make me some notes about dispatch there.
If I may, the
You got it.
the representatives here from each department, I know the questions that the board may have, but it may be very helpful while we're making notes to just start maybe with David, come down the line and let them identify the concerns or the questions or comments they may have. And that way we can get those filtered out. And if we still have time, you guys can blow them up.
Well, that was my intention, to get them talking, so.
Well, now they're on the spot.
Like Craig's saying, it's not, keep on bringing up dead spots. It's not dead spots that we're going to have them. It's just, you sound like half the time you're in a barrel, or either you've got some kind of big roar in the background. You just cannot hear and you can't talk out. It's not dead spots. It's just something interfering with the radio. We've got a, right here. You got it? Where's it at? Right here. I'm gonna let you listen to this. This is what we hear in Glade Creek. That's dispatch talking to us.
Okay.
That's what we hear.
So I'm hearing that receiver close up and reopen several times there. Is that on a portable or is that on a truck radio?
No, it's on a handheld.
Okay.
It's on a Kenwood handheld that we
Yeah.
bought from you all.
So I would want to know the way I'd have to analyze this. And that's why we're here today. I want to identify what troubles, make sure we're not chasing the wrong thing. So, you mentioned a great thing right there. You said we're not chasing dead spots. And that is something we've been looking at, is trying to find the dead spots. So
Right.
that is something our efforts should have been looking at more what you're talking about there.
I mean, we're gonna have dead spots. We know that, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just everyday talking,
Yeah.
and not in dead spots.
Okay. So a week ago, this past Saturday, who is 800 base? What radio is that?
The base, it's, Kenwood, what you use? It's the same one.
I think it's the bigger Kenwood.
I'm not sure.
The reason I reference that is our team was up here that Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday, boots on the ground, working the area from here all the way up into Tazewell. 800 base, I heard perfectly every single time, no matter where I was at in the county.
Yeah.
I want to know if everybody else heard it clear, readable every single time as well.
You use the Viper most of the time?
I was on Viper the whole time.
Yeah, so you listen to Viper.
Because that Saturday, now I may get my days mixed up. It was either that Saturday or that Sunday, I radioed into the comm center and I had them to set off Laurel Springs pagers. And they had their pagers activated to have members to come to the station.
Right. I
So
don't know where we're at. Yeah.
we went, I believe it was that Sunday morning. The generator guy got the generator fixed at Mulberry Gap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a mechanic with engines, don't know nothing about that. Does the word stator mean anything? Okay, well they fixed it. So when that site come back live, I radioed in and had them to do radio page out test. But yet again, 800 base never missed a beat on the VHF side.
Right.
Loud and clear. So as I've monitored more about 800 base, that radio is into the system. If I was going to use an example of a radio that sounds good on the system, I would refer to that one. I hear some other portables out there that are very low in modulation. When I look at the service monitor and I see their signal come up, their signal's good.
Now
But
here,
It's like
you
they're a
hear that?
mile away.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking plain now. This is dispatch. Yeah, that's
So we hear dispatch loud and clear. The unit responding. If I were a betting man, I would bet that's a portable. He's very weak into the signal. The site's hanging on to him. You hear the static covering up more of his voice than his voice being present. So if he had a truck radio to pick up to right then or a mobile repeater, you'd have probably heard him come back in as strong as dispatch. And that's out of all the observation that we see, and I know we're a portable world. I like my portable too. But in the mountainous regions that we have here and all the terrain and trying to overcome that, we just want dispatch to hear us. And that's where a mobile repeater or something's going to have to enhance that. And we may get spoiled. Now, give you an example. You get around one of the sites there. Let's take Little Grandfather Mulberry Gap there. You get close to that and, oh man, your portable's working great. You get complacent with it, but then you start over towards 221 or whatever, and you get in a holler and you're like, you're getting mad. They ain't hearing you. It's doing all it can do. That site can't really see you. It's got too much strain in the way. You mentioned about dispatch, their audio being unreadable to you. That's something I've got to look into. I've got to see, since you pointed that out, what's going on there.
That's the biggest thing on my side.
And you're in
Laurel Springs.
Laurel Springs.
Yeah.
Is
Like
hearing
person to
dispatch.
person's not bad. And sometimes dispatch ain't bad. It's just every once in a while. Sounds like a helicopter landing on the radio.
The helicopter landing, is that something that is beaten with their voice?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
If I asked you the question, does it sound like two transmitters at the same time?
I mean, possibly, yeah. Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Does it, when it does that, in their communication while they're talking, does it instantly clear up?
Sometimes it lasts throughout the whole dispatch or the whole talking session, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
Another thing is it might work good on Monday and on Wednesday, you can't hear
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah,
That's,
So it's sporadic
Yeah.
and inconsistent.
yeah.
Okay. Can anybody tell me this? I know we've got fire here. Do any of y'all monitor the EMS?
That's what we work off of.
Is it doing the same thing on the EMS channel?
Yep.
So same thing, dispatch. What about EMS amongst themselves?
That'd be a question for David.
Sometimes the dispatch part is the same as what they're describing, but for the most part, our radio communication is pretty good, especially with our mobiles. We check out at Baptist, and they hear us crystal clear. But there is places where we was taking the patient from Friday evening, I never did get out. But I called on a cell phone, which that's one that's neither here nor there. But that was a dead spot, so the mobile didn't even get out
Right.
on the truck. So, but for the most part, our dispatch sometimes is that same way.
Okay. So my takeaway, what I'm learning here is different from what my focus was looking at. It's more dispatch related. You're not able to hear them. You're not able to hear them clearly and effectively. And if you do on Monday, it could be different by Wednesday or Thursday.
Pretty much. There is that occasion where we're trying to talk to first responders.
Mhm.
First responders being on a portable. It comes across with a lot more static sometimes, but that's with a portable, not with a mobile.
Right.
So, that's limited as far as distance. It's limited as far as their ability to talk as good as a 45 watt radio versus a 5 watt radio. So there's going to be a difference there.
You're correct.
Critical information, sometimes you can kind of gather enough out of a conversation to put it together if you know a little something about what they're talking about to start with. Other times you have no clue.
Yeah. We've heard a lot of what you're talking about. We're trying to, you're so in tune, you're listening for every word you can grasp with that conversation. And I can only imagine the individual on the other end. He's doing everything he can do with that radio to make it get across. Not to mention the noise factor you got in the background of engines running or the
Sirens.
Yeah.
and-
the nature of the call. You've got panic people, you've got traffic going on. So I know from the aspect of helping you with the portable world is the vehicle repeater. Not worried about that. But what I am concerned with is what you're telling me of not able to hear dispatch. That's essential. We've got to get that fixed. You've made that known. Now I've got to take that back and fix that. So tell me other things you're experiencing.
That's my biggest thing.
Is the pager activation going off in your districts?
Not all the time.
Not all the time, no.
Not all the time.
Mm-mm.
So now we do a double activation, Daniel? Is that
No, we're doing a pre-blast and then
okay? So doing a header.
and then a single activation.
Okay. Single activation. Mike, put a note there. I want to look at tone level coming out of dispatch for the two-tone. I need to know what we're on there. So to give you a little background, as dispatch comes to you, the tone level that we generate for your tones, the A, B, the high, low, whatever you want to call it, if I modulate too much, I'll jump out of a receiver. And then your tones are not effective on your end. So just as much as your equipment has to be on frequency, I've got to be that good out of dispatch into it. And if a dispatch radio drifts, it can happen. It's equipment, but that's my job to look at that. Coverage wise in your districts, is it adequate? Is it what,
We cover the whole county, but I think it'd be a better question for the chiefs that's in the district. But when we're in those areas, it's hard to communicate. We can communicate to each other, but we can't communicate to central dispatcher. We can't hear them.
Yeah, I can hear David.
It don't matter if you're on a truck or portable, you won't get out. But a lot of us are carrying dual band radios, so we switch to Viper. It's like this weekend or when the hurricane hit. There's no way in the world you could use VHF. So we all switched to Viper, and that's what we communicated off of.
Sometimes I can hear David whenever dispatch can't hear him. And I had a brush fire last year, and I kept yelling at dispatch, and they couldn't hear me, but everybody else could hear me.
so one thing we changed with dispatch, what day did we do the drive around, Daniel?
I don't recall, the week before the hurricane, 2 weeks before, something like that.
So we changed something on the console, and John, you'll know where I'm coming from with this. We went from line activated modulation to COR. And the reason we done that, the COR is any carrier that keys up with the correct PL tone on that frequency, it's going to open it, regardless if there was modulation there. The setting before was it had to have a certain modulation to open so that it doesn't just flake out and, the dispatcher sitting there with a headset on and hearing every pop and crack. So we changed that to carrier operated then. And that is to be better for y'all. So anybody keying up, it's going to open up. When dispatch is not hearing you, for my clarity, it's the same if you switch to EMS, they're not hearing you as well.
Correct.
But somebody across the county just heard what you said.
I'll give you a good example. A few weeks ago when y'all was up here doing radio checks, I could hear Daniel clear as a bell, but dispatch couldn't hear him. Then there was one spot on 113, I think it was Mike. He said, "Can you hear me now?" Dispatch all said, "All I hear is static." But I can hear him clear as a bell.
Yeah.
And I texted Daniel when he's at 21 Mountain Overlook. I said, "I can hear you fine."
I think that's, you and I talked about that. You were at the Overlook, and I was all the way out at,
You were on 113.
yeah, turn on the 113 and 221 there where it comes together.
Yeah.
That's where I was sitting. I think I'm seeing where I'm narrowing it down at dispatch.
And we can communicate better from Statesville or Winston than we can in the county.
And you will. You're on some major ridges up here.
Yeah.
Either between states.
Right.
I'll tell you the good point you're blessed with. If those agencies off the mountain were still on VHF, Mr. Carter would be getting a bunch of phone calls. Turn it down. You're blessed in that nature. You got some really good ridges that get out far. Like David was saying, he's down there in Winston at the hospital and checking in route. So my takeaway from what I'm hearing is if we can get dispatch tuned into the rest of you, that's going to help a whole lot.
Yeah.
That's the key that we're,
And one other thing, and I don't know what you can do about it, but there got to be something. When we're being dispatched and the second dispatcher's back here on the phone, taking the phone call, finding out more, we can hear them better than we can hear the one dispatching us. The one in the background, that's the one we can hear the best.
if they've got that headset on, it should not happen. If their gooseneck mic is being used, yes, it can couple in.
We have a lot of problems with that. You can hear the second dispatcher in the background taking information while the one that's dispatching us is talking.
So see if that mic's too hot, Mike.
And I can confirm what he's saying.
I could hear that when I was in there when the hurricane was happening, when they were working on the internet stuff. You could hear it sitting there. You can hear the other dispatcher talking through the other person's headset when they're trying to talk to them
Yeah.
while you're
So they're
sitting
using a
there.
headset.
Yeah.
So that mic gain is way too high.
Mhm. And then if they have to, then when the phone would ring that they were trying to,
You're
when they were
hearing
trying to fix the lines and stuff, it was even worse. Like it sounded scratchy then. I could hear it sounded scratchy through the headphones when they were trying to talk. So
Okay. We've talked fire EMS. Sheriff, any issues? Any,
They don't utilize the
Yeah,
system.
they're on Viper.
are they still selecting Viper and VHF for them, or is it just all
Fiber only.
Viper on? Okay. So our focus needs to be EMS, fire at the comm center.
So when they page out, here's a question I got. When they page out, is it like patched together? If we was on Viper and scanning, will we hear it on both channels?
They're not patched, no.
Okay.
They multi-select right now to go out EMS and fire at the same time. Am I correct, Daniel? They're multi-selected right now for VHF, fire, and EMS when they page out to go out at the same time.
Yes.
So you'll hear EMS and fire get the same thing. Now, there is a roar in the system that happens when they give out their alert to make a call and they send out those paging tones. There's usually one that has a brief pause and then has a different tone that comes through. If somebody keys up to try to check en route, they're strong enough that receiver hears them up there, and that roar comes in because the fire transmitter is still keyed, waiting for the rest of that paging. So if you hear that roar in there, that is another user trying. There's enough power coming from whatever their site they're at. The receiver hears them, and it's wanting to open that transmitter, but that's mixing in with what's there. And I'm sure you've all heard that roar. That's what that is. It's somebody a little trigger happy wanting to check en route, or, they bumped the mic. It happens. That's the nature of a simulcast.
David, do you have some more questions?
I'm good.
Jason?
I'm good.
Morgan? You got the man here.
Well, I think we've explained to him what we've got going on, so that's kind of where we're at.
I've got a question, if I can interject. I'm Mike Cochran with Mobile Communications. 90% of what I do is public safety. For 33 years, I sit where these guys are sitting. So I'm familiar with radio communications on the scene, en route, in the field. So I understand where they're coming from. But my question is, and when you brought up paging a while ago, is any department that because you're saying everybody's not getting the pages. Are we using any amplified chargers in any of the departments?
We have one at our station that activates our bell.
Okay, so we can learn from our neighbors. Stokes County, Surrey County, and there's other counties that when you issue a member a pager, oh, this is going to get you up and go on calls. Well, did we think where that member lived? And have we checked his pager where he lives? Because there's a department that borders Surrey and Stokes that certain members in their department, where they live, they have to be issued an amplified charger. That amplified, oh yeah, it's amplified, it's louder. And that's what everybody thinks it's for people that it sleeps real.
I didn't think we
Sam.
could get them anymore.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Minotaurs and or
The new ones?
communication. Yeah.
Because all we get is the cord that plugs in them.
All right. So what an amplified charger does, it does amplify the speaker. But the biggest thing that they buy them for is that antenna that's on that amplified charger. And that way those members, yes, it's a little more that you have to spend on that certain member, but it's because where they live. So I would encourage any department, check with your members. Well, my pager didn't go off. I didn't hear the call. Well, think where they live. So, you know, we can learn from our neighbors and, you know, if we have to get a amplified charger for those people, you know, it does help.
I mean, that's all we used to buy was the amplified until they got the big square bodies and
Yes. Uh-huh. But yeah, now Unication, they make them for the G5s, and it's got a little antenna there, and
the
then,
G5s have an amplified charger.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Motorola makes them. So I encourage, if there's somebody who lives in an area that is weak, let's.
The weak thing about what Mike's saying, the little USB you're trying to plug inside,
Mm-hmm.
that's your weakest link.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing to stop working, stop charging,
Right.
get dirt in there and everything else. Everybody wants that cradle that they set in, and you can get a cradle that you take your cord and just plug into that's non-amplified,
Mhm.
and then they have the amplified. So there's both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the amplified the best.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
With the recent problems we've had with the hurricane, the infrastructure's been wiped out. What are you hearing in the industry through the state about replacing? Are they going to upgrade? Are we going to have a bucket of money dumped on us in communications to upgrade us? Because I know they want everyone on 800 megahertz trunk.
I don't foresee any state money to anyone. If we're talking about Viper, their mandate still stands that you've got to be TDMA Viper compliant. So like your XTL, XT2500s and all. If it doesn't have what they call the phase 2 option in there, it's not going to work when they flip the switch. Mike, you got the date on that next year.
July 2025.
Mike Hodgson has been asked directly, is there any forgiveness, extension, or pleasantries you can extend to any of us that we don't meet that date? No. Plain and simple. Now, would they have loved to have flipped a switch to TDMA with what's going on in Northwest North Carolina right now? Yes, they would, because there is so many people relying on it and so many busies. They would love to go ahead and go TDMA. But as far as monies, no. I did send out a email. I'm sure y'all are aware of Firehouse Subs. They have a grant that expires October the 10th. That's $45,000, I believe it is. Y'all can take advantage of and go online, sign up. You know, they're giving that money away for equipment. So that's the only thing I know of.
Mr. Carter?
Just want to reaffirm any other questions from you guys. Good. We talked a lot about dispatch. And for once, Daniel Roten hadn't opened his mouth too much. So
What's up, dude?
I think, Daniel, is there anything you can add from the dispatch perspective?
Michael, if you pass that microphone.
I don't think I have a ton to add because I think we've kind of hit all of it here. A lot of what these guys are experiencing, I can confirm has happened, but to me, in my mind, I think there's two things to identify and explore before we go a whole lot further. And Michael, maybe you'll agree with me on this. We seem to identify that perhaps there is some kind of link in dispatch between dispatch and the network that perhaps has given us some issues.
I would agree.
So it would be my suggestion that we first explore that. And two, and I know we've talked about this in the past, was preventative maintenance on radios and pagers. When we rode around, I'm not suggesting that the communication system was perfect, but I was using a brand spanking new radio, a portable, and was for the most part able to talk to dispatch. And you guys have said yourself, you heard me, from the overlook. Well, if it'll work from the overlook, my goodness, it should work from most anywhere. So that's my thoughts. One, the link between dispatch, and two, some of these radios that have been floating around for 10, 15 years, honestly, probably need to be replaced. Because don't forget, I'm still a member of Sparta Fire Department. Now, I'm not as active as I used to be, but I know what it's like to be a firefighter, and I know what happens to a radio. It gets dropped. It gets wet. It gets banged into every door you walk through. It gets just completely abused. At least once a year, those radios, every single one of them, should be put on a monitor to make sure it is functioning the way it is intended to function. So before we talk about towers, and I would love to have mobile repeaters. I'm not suggesting that's a bad idea, but that costs something. I think we need to identify those two things first. And that's pretty much all I've got to say.
And the thing that I would follow up on is obviously we want to explore these thoughts as soon as we can. Mm-hmm. And to be able to follow up with these fellas and everyone here so that we can provide the proper information as such. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm just going to say that we'll get to it as quickly as we can. And I think if everyone here is good, I think it's time if any of the commissioners have comments or questions for you guys to take off with.
Start with John.
The only thing I'll say is we've been through a heavy time, and communications is communications, VHF. One of the problems that we are going to run into, especially in the realm that we are operating in, is atmospherics. It's common for that word, atmospherics. We're in a high sunspot period in the sunspots cycle. But what you know it as is skip. It's going to be there. You may be talking to Arizona one day, and they're talking to you. That's skip. That is going to come in. Just about every band has a problem. In UHF, whenever you start having warm days and cold nights, you're going to have skip. That will come in. But considering the problems that we've had and what we've been through and the outstanding work that you guys did, you made it work. It is a credit to you and your ability to make it happen. Thank you for everything that you did. God bless you.
Michelle?
Well, from day one of taking over as fire commissioner, every single meeting, and they're going to back me up on this, we've talked about communications, haven't we?
Yes.
Every single meeting. And, we've explored it with Daniel. We added another tower, and we invested in a new tower. We've looked at all kinds of different solutions. So I feel like that we're coming to finally a point with it that there's going to be something changed. So my understanding of the action plan is that you guys are going to look at the dispatch issue, and you're going to look at maybe the tone issue, see what we can do about that. And if that doesn't fix things, then we're probably looking at what did you call them? The
Vehicle repeaters.
repeaters. So, but you know, that's just something that we've got to get these guys to where they can hear dispatch and communicate well. So, and I too would like to thank you all for the wonderful job you've done during this emergency, because, you know, I hope this lets up on Sparta a little bit. I mean, we've had an earthquake and now we've had a hurricane, and is lava going to come out of the ground next? I hope not. But, you know, thank you all, because I think it's been shown that we can't depend on the federal government to save everybody. It's guys like you and the other first responders that get out there and cut the trees and, you know, help get the linemen to where they can fix the power back and clean the roads off. So, but thank you. And I hope that you all feel good today about what we've talked about and that we're making some progress.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Yeah, just a question, I guess, through I don't know all these acronyms thrown around and trying to keep up with. The Viper radio systems is thrown around a couple of times, and there is a reason that the sheriff's department is not sitting around here. So my question, can you educate us on what the Viper radio type deal? I know it's a very expensive item, but could you educate us why it works differently or works better?
It's digital.
It's digital.
The Viper system was built out by the Highway Patrol for the Highway Patrol at a 90% street level coverage, not in building, nothing more than street level coverage. Remember, Highway Patrol, patrol car. Since then, a lot of agencies have got on Viper. It works well. It does everything it's supposed to. However, it was just as critical as anybody's equipment. When that hurricane hit, 27 sites in Northwest North Carolina went dark. As of 2 p.m. today, when I talked to the EOC, only 2 911 centers in the state are not up right now. But primarily, everybody was utilizing Viper because it is an interoperability network, meaning multifaceted, multi-agencies can all come together on one platform from all walks of life, all parts of the state or other states, and come together. It's a unified platform. Very expensive to get on. Is it going to talk in all the areas? No. Mike has went out with sheriff's office around the whole county. A lot of dead spots with Viper. Is it the solution for Alleghany County? No, because you cannot page on it. Is it usable to fill in other areas, just like Jason's used in different areas? Yes, it's a tool. It's in your tool bag. Use it. Just like the multi-band portables that y'all have, you still got your VHF in that same radio, and you have Viper. So it's more tools in your tool bag. Use it. It's a good system.
That's all I got. I just curious.
Greg?
I agree with what Daniel said there. We need to check on the dispatch and go from there, see what we need to do next. And I just want to thank all of you fire departments, especially you, David. I come from from West Jefferson last Friday, 4 hours. I didn't figure I'd get to the house. Best roads around Lake Tree.
Thank you, Greg.
I appreciate what all y'all guys done.
I've just got just a few questions as usual. And do we need, I know we're going to do a study to find out what we can do to try to fix this the best we can. Is more towers part of that? Is taller towers part of that?
I'll ask the question on this, David. As we've conversed today and found out some things from y'all, I think we concluded it's not coverage anymore. I think we've got the coverage in the areas we need. That's been a topic in the past about coverage. Just as Daniel checked in from the Overlook, the Roaring Gap site, That's a great site. It's filled in a lot of gap there. Mobile repeaters would help these guys tremendously with their portables out there. Remember, we're a portable world. Every one of us carries a phone, and we like that. So these guys carry portable radios. It's a tool in their bag. We need to enhance that for them. As far as more towers or taller towers, no. I think you can amplify that. My commitment is get this dispatch issue resolved, because the system proves they can talk amongst themselves. They can talk. We've got to get dispatch linked to talk as well as they're talking. Am I correct, guys?
Yeah, we can talk to Ashe County
Yeah.
from Glade Creek with no problem. The days that they switched over, Ashe County dispatched us, no problems.
So it's with the comm center. And, you know, my commitment's there. When the hurricane was coming in, I was on vacation. I left Myrtle Beach Thursday. I said, I will not be away while my customers will be impacted by this. I will be where I can be available. As I come into town, I got ready. Friday, I have a place in Woodlawn, Virginia, for the mountains there that I stay. The lady that was house sitting there for me watching the dogs, I called her. I said, I'm heading up. She said, no, you're not. She said, you can't travel right now. She said, it's hitting us. I said, it's done past. I was in Yackyville. I said, it's done past down here. She said, I'm telling you, stay where you're at. When she gave me the green light, we come up. It was a pig path to get there. It normally takes me an hour and 20 minutes. It took me almost 3 hours. I seen what it done. We got there. I started setting up everything to monitor everything for y'all. Other agents we take care of, Tazewell, Virginia and all, they got hit hard. I had some guys in Northwest North Carolina talking to those. So I started managing everybody that we could. Saturday morning, we were in the county and we started working everything because your system was affected. That wind was ferocious. I had to realign some dishes. I had equipment that was just sitting there locked up because it wanted to sit there and go back to power, go back to generator, go back to power, go back to generator. I mean, sometimes you just have to reboot things manually. I can't do it remotely. That involved feet on the street. As soon as I could already tell Laurel Springs is suffering here. Something's not right. Tried to remote into the equipment over there. Couldn't get it. Generator alert was not coming on. Now, all the tests prior to that run fine. We try to get over there Saturday. You ain't getting through the roads. That was a nightmare to try to get over to Laurel Springs. So Saturday evening, tried it again. We got over there, seen the problem, identified. It's going to take somebody with some motor experience farther than me. Took them back Sunday morning, got it online. So our dedication is here. We're here for you. We're going to continue to support you. You've identified the problems. Thank y'all. We're going to take that, go back, fix it.
Another question, is there a system out there, I guess besides a military system, that would give us 100% coverage?
No. You said 100%? No.
What's the best we could hope for?
98%.
98.
And that's a hope for.
And what are we getting now?
97 on your mobile coverage, meaning in truck. So if you amplified their portables with vehicle repeaters at 97.
We're pretty close to the 98.
In vehicle, not portable.
Yeah, right.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but the question comes up. How many radios are in the county estimate?
237 is my guess.
Pretty good estimation. Okay. So in order, and how many mobile repeaters would you guess the county would have to put if we had to go that route?
Guys, I'm going to lean on y'all. First engine out of every department. Is that not going to be on the scene no matter what your call is?
Yeah.
So whether it be a QRV or your apparatus truck. Yeah. These mobile repeaters have the technology in there to take priority. I'll give you an example. Let's say every one of us had a mobile repeater and we all show up to the same fire scene. They will beacon amongst themselves and only one will take priority. So it's got a smart technology about it. So as David comes over to Laurel Springs to help out and Jason comes in too, you all got them on. Y'all don't have to worry about who's on third, who's on first, and who flipped a switch and who didn't. It's there. You simply turn to that tactical channel on your radio, talking to the truck, it's going to go out. And I can give you a reference list a mile long of everybody using these. Carroll County Sheriff's Office comes to my mind. We just built their last 4 cars, and they're all in there. It's a staple. They just copy and paste on everything they do.
So again, how many is there? How many are we talking about?
How many departments is in the county? 13?
Six, got
Yeah,
rescue.
rescue.
5 departments and rescue squad. So 6 mobile repeaters.
And just guessing what it cost a piece.
Mike?
I'll get that.
You
quoted me one the other day for about, what, $6,500?
Yeah, I know that, sent you one.
that's the repeater and radio?
How much?
Sorry.
6,500.
So I had asked for a quote myself, just to go ahead and start poking around a little bit about a quote for a mobile repeater. And it was $6,500 is what Mike quoted me.
7 because you would need one in your emergency vehicle.
Right.
And how long would it take to get the license?
10 business days. Because it's a simplex frequency. 10,
It's low power.
yeah, low power.
Okay.
So what I'm getting at is hopefully we can digest what's going on with dispatch without. But if not, the next step is going to cost the county less than $50,000 or whomever is going to belly up the money for those mobile repeaters.
I like the word county.
Well, I figured y'all would. Leaving has its advantages. I had to put that on the next one.
With the utmost respect, being on these guys' sides, as well as being in a management role of looking at a budget. The money for the mobile repeaters and what it will do to enhance their world, as well as how it's going to cut down on all the frustration all the way around, it's not a drop in a bucket compared to what it will give them. So it's not if we fix dispatch or not, because we're going to fix that. They still need the mobile repeaters because the terrain they're in. And I'm not giving you that from a sales aspect. Go ask any neighboring county around you. Can they operate without their vehicle repeater? I mean, y'all have done well to accommodate without it, and that says a lot about the resiliency of your system and how well it operates. But those portables are in some weak areas. I heard he played his call. You heard it chop in and out. If you could turn that into a conversation like we're having here, that's what it's going to do.
What about the ambulance? They need them on them?
Well,
Yes and no?
yeah, but we just I've got,
Bring that microphone.
when I get done with this new truck that we're getting, all of our trucks will have brand new dual band radios, except for one. So we'll have Viper. We've got Viper in our vehicles. So I think we'd be okay. Unless we could link one up to the mobiles that we just have put in there. Those are very expensive, and I don't believe it, Michael, you may tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I do not think they will link up to the ones we just bought, and they're very expensive.
One other thing, thank the rescue squad for what y'all done.
What I was getting at is if we're talking about less than $50,000, Daniel can go eat a bunch of subs at that firehouse place. He can apply for that grant, hopefully get it. We can outfit this group with those mobile repeaters and we're good.
I like to eat.
Today's October 10th.
You'll live long as
So-
you will not.
One of the things that we've also got to take into account, if we keep on adding radios onto Viper, the state of North Carolina is going to come up and say, we need a repeater.
Yeah.
And that's $250,000. How much are they now?
The GTRs that they're making you put in.
The Quantars that I was selling 25 years ago were 50,000.
Yeah.
So they've got to be up there.
Look at 100,000 a channel, and you'll be like Rockingham County. The more you keep adding on, they'll say, hey, you need to buy the repeaters. They will become ours. We will put them in at the Viper sites. And you've got Catherine's Knob. You've got Green Mountain. Where's the other Viper sites? Fisher's Peak. Yeah. So 2 sites there, and you're going to want, they're going to say, well, we want 100,000 per channel. So 600,000 from you just to add more capacity because you're using it. You're using it for free, but they're going to want you to increase the capacity. So 50,000 versus 600,000. And on the fire department side, they can't afford to keep buying Viper radios at the cost that they are, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. When they can buy a VHF radio for $500, and I'm spitballing, okay? So when you got members coming on and you're trying to maintain your roster and maintain membership, you can't go give a newcomer, new fire and a $6,000 radio. It just doesn't work. So they got to amplify what they got.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Go ahead.
I'd like to see you apply for that grant and let us know. You know, I don't think we need to wait a really long time on this. I'd like to get this going. I mean, the man said we need them. So, you know, if it's going to be a long time, let's make it happen.
I'll be more than happy to do that.
And then I'm sure
Deadline's coming fast, so.
Michael can find the money for us if we don't get the grant, right, Michael?
We'll look around.
David, do you have a final question or comments?
I'm tickled with this today. I think we're moving to go in the right direction. We've got to do something. We've sat around and went stale until and we can't afford these high dollar radios. We can't. We've got to stay with the VHF system. That's where we're at. We can't put all our members in these big radios. And I don't like them myself. They're just, it's like carrying a big box on your side. So I love what they're talking about. Thank y'all. Thank you very much.
Jason?
I think it was a good conversation, good meeting we had. I do agree with the mobile repeater. We're in the process of ordering the truck, and I had Mike put me a couple of radios for it. And when I told him what radio we was thinking about getting from y'all, he said, "Where's your repeater at? Your mobile repeater?" And I said, "We ain't getting one." He said, "You're crazy. Where you live?" So I think that's something we need to look at. I think when we quote it, who installs those? Is it okay? So if we county buy 6, we get free installation, right?
That's in that pricing point.
I was trying to help him out.
Morning.
I'm just glad we're making progress on this. I appreciate y'all setting the meeting up. I agree with them. The mobile repeaters are a must.
Yep.
Anybody else on the panel? Mr. Carter?
I think it's high time we've had this conversation.
Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for participation. Some of it, to be honest, was just about over my head. That's up to the experts to work that out. Daniel and David, I'm sure everybody will be working hard. Mr. Carter?
Just one thing that everybody's been appreciated. Everybody is appreciated. But you guys, Mobilecom, we appreciate you guys too for what work you've done.
Thank you.
Helping us out.
Daniel, I appreciate what you've done through the storm, you and David. And you guys all know I appreciate you keeping stuff going.
If there are no other comments, I will,
I got one.
go ahead.
Are we gonna have a follow-up meeting or what's gonna happen? How are we gonna find out how things are progressing?
Are you gonna communicate through the fire commission? You're gonna communicate through the group? How do you wish to communicate?
Your direction, you tell me where to communicate that to and I'll follow up.
Okay, should I ask myself that? Why don't, I mean, you have everyone's email address here, I'm assuming. If you don't,
Almost.
we can give it to you.
Okay.
Just make us a group. We'll all be in it. That way everybody gets the same information.
Yeah. Daniel, you've got my email address. Mike, just give her yours there and just go ahead and do a group there. And I can respond back as to our findings, what we find there, the changes we make. Then I'll ask y'all to try that and give me the feedback and let's go from there.
That'll work.
You know, if we adjust it and it goes worse, holler quickly and say, no, worse.
You guys make sure you give him your email, okay? So he can let you know.
Anything else? If not, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. We'll be back here in about 19 minutes.
Yeah.